إذن حضورنا الكريم، سنختتم بعد قليل جلساتنا لليوم بجلسة عنوانها عوامل النجاح في عصر المعرفة والتطور الرقمي، وسيتحدث فيها كيفن هارينغتون حول التطور الرقمي وكيفية خلق الفرص المربحة وتوظيف أيضا وسائل التواصل الاجتماعي والمؤثرين في وسائل التواصل الاجتماعي لبناء الأعمال والعلامات التجارية بعد دقائق قليلة.
Meet Kevin Harrington.
With over 500 products launched and generating over $5 billion in product sales in over 100 countries, Kevin Harrington is the inventor of the infomercial, as seen on TV Pioneer, and original shark on the Emmy Award-winning TV show Shark Tank. Kevin creates massive brands by combining great products with superstar talent like Kim Kardashian, 50 Cent, Kathy and Paris Hilton, Kris Jenner, CeeLo Green, George Foreman, Montel Williams, Jack LaLanne, Flo Rida, Hulk Hogan, Billy Mays, Paula Abdul, and Tony Little.
My brand now is worth over $3 billion. So my advice to everybody, if you even have an idea, you'd want to go to Kevin Harrington.
Kevin has been featured on 2020, CNN, Fox Business, Bloomberg, Jim Cramer's The Street, MTV, Good Morning America, the CBS Morning News, The Today Show, The View, and The Daily Double on Jeopardy.
Now the last clue, back to the Shark Tank.
I'm Kevin Harrington.
A renowned speaker, Kevin has appeared on stage for organizations like AT&T, Microsoft, and MIT.
Kevin is a pioneer of the direct response industry and has risen to nearly iconic status over the years.
Kevin helped to found EO, the Entrepreneurs Organization. An entrepreneur for over 40 years, Kevin has built 20 businesses to over $100 million each. That's why he's the original shark from Shark Tank, the billion-dollar man, Kevin Harrington. Let's give Kevin a warm welcome.
Thank you. All right. Thank you. All right. So, has anybody here seen the show Shark Tank? See a show of hands? Oh, a few of you have. Okay, great. So, do you recognize this gentleman, Mr. Wonderful? He's the really tough guy on Shark Tank. He's the other Kevin. And you know why he calls himself Mr. Wonderful? Because nobody else will. He loves to talk to him. Every morning he wakes up and he kisses the mirror. He's a very famous guy, and he's been a very strong person on Shark Tank that isn't always Mr. Nice, okay? So I'm going to talk a little bit about Shark Tank today. First I want to ask, how many entrepreneurs do we have in the room? Entrepreneurs? No? Just a handful? Okay. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to talk about the knowledge economy and how it's changed for me and how I had a very difficult point in my entrepreneurial career. But before I do that, I just want to talk a little bit about how I got started and give you a little history so that it makes sense when I hit the wall at a certain point and needed to make some changes. And so I started at a young age in my father's restaurants. He was a bartender, and he started his own restaurants. Then I started very entrepreneurially. My father was a mentor to me, and he said, you need to own your own business. So I had a driveway sealing business, a heating and air conditioning company, and I used to pay attention to many of the things that were going on out in the business world, and I launched something called the Small Business Center. This was in 1980, the Small Business Center. So it was 38 years ago, where we had a one-stop center for small business owners in Cincinnati, Ohio. We had lawyers, insurance agents, advertising people, accounting people, graphic, everything under one roof. And it was one whole floor of an office building. It was like a WeWorks for small businesses. And this was many, many years ago. We opened up 30 of these around the United States. So we had them from New York to Los Angeles to Florida to Texas, all across the United States. 1980, we started small business centers all over the place. So this gave me an opportunity to be involved in taking a look at the world of television. And so I remember back in the early 80s watching TV, and when I got to this channel, Discovery, there was bars on the screen, like you see here, and I called the company and I said, I'm not getting the television on this channel. What's the problem? And they said, Discovery is only an 18-hour-a-day channel. 6 hours is nothing. The bar's on the screen. And so I said, as an entrepreneur, I said, I need to put something on that channel to make a profit for me, and I'll pay them a percentage of those sales. So that's what I started doing, is putting products on TV. So I was at the Philadelphia Home Show, and there was a gentleman he had a knife in his hand. He was cutting through sharp things. He was cutting through a Coca-Cola can, through a muffler, through a pair of sneakers, and was using it to cut through many things. And he said, this is called the Ginsu knife. And he started selling it, and literally in front of me, he was selling thousands and thousands of dollars. And when he got on break, I said to him, that was one of the greatest sales presentations I've ever seen. How long have you been doing this? And he said he'd been doing it for more than a dozen years, selling the Ginsu knife. And so I said, his name was Arnold Morris. I said, Arnold, let me ask you a question. Are you familiar with the fact that Discovery has 6 hours of no programming? He said, no. What do you intend to do? I said, I want to video your presentation and put it on Discovery, and let's see if we can make some money together. And this was back in the early 80s, 35 years ago. And here is the clip that we shot way back at 35 years old.
You take a tomato, the weight of the knife alone cuts that tomato. Let me ask you something. How many knives you have at home this sharp? You could drop the tomato on top. Pretty sharp, right? You know what one young lady said? Can you cut them thin? I said, thin, one tomato will last you all week long.
So this little commercial that we shot, that's just a little clip. It was a long-form commercial. We put it all around the U.S., and then we actually put it all around the world, and this ended up doing, I call it a viral video, because we just sent it to TV stations everywhere. It ended up producing sales of over $500 million in U.S. sales. And there was bars on the screen in the United States. There was also bars on the screen in Europe, in Latin America, in Asia, everywhere around the world. So this became a very powerful new business model, the as seen on TV industry. And so, like I said, here is a show where we've just dubbed it into the local language. This is Dutch.
Niet zoals jij, ja? Omhoog komen, strak maken, neer. Met spanning omhoog, dat is het enige wat je hoeft te doen. Gaat is dat alles? Dat is het enige wat je moet doen om de rechterbuikspieren te isoleren. Wat is die grafiek daar beneden? Dat is de grafiek, die laat je 30 seconden per oefening op.
So we would take each infomercial from the US and dub it into these local languages all around the world. Literally 100 countries, about 25 different languages. And so this is what prompted the phone call from Mark Burnett, when Mark Burnett called to say, hey, I would love to have you on this new show that I'm doing called Shark Tank. And so what happened, though, was this. Like I said, how many entrepreneurs? We have a few of you here in the room. Every entrepreneur knows that sometimes things go like this, but then sometimes they go like this. And so what started happening in my industry is newspapers and magazines and television started dropping in their distribution. In fact, many people don't even realize that there was a big decline. Millennials stopped watching TV. I have a 30-year-old boy and a 20-year-old boy, and they barely watch any television at all. There was a 50% decline in television viewership in the United States. In fact, Yahoo did a report that over 56 million people had stopped paying for cable television in the United States. So here I was, Mr. As Seen on TV, sales are dropping, and I didn't know what to do. And so this was my company, As Seen on TV, As Seen on TV Inc., AsSeenOnTV.com. We had thousands of products in tens of thousands of stores all over the world, but this is what was happening. Business was plummeting. And I didn't know what to do. And so, thank God the knowledge economy has come on board now, because this was what it felt like walking into my office on a daily basis. And so I said to myself, I need to get some of the brightest and smartest people to give me some thoughts on what's happening in this world of knowledge, because TV was dropping like this, but where were the eyeballs going? And so one of my friends, Tony Robbins, he said, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always gotten. This was also Henry Ford. And so I had a chance at this point in my life to go visit somebody that was very powerful in the world. I didn't know him at the time, but he's since become a friend. And I looked to him to help me take my business to the next level, because we had gone like this, and now we were going like this. And I got a hold of Richard Branson, and I was able to spend a weekend at Necker Island. Is everyone familiar? Anyone heard of Richard Branson before? Yes? Virgin Records, right? Virgin Airlines. So here we were at Necker Island, and Richard Branson said, Kevin, I'm going to sit with you, and I'm going to give you some amazing tips. You've built these billion-dollar businesses, but guess what? The viewers have left. 50 million viewers have left television. And let's write a plan of action. And this is where the knowledge economy comes in for me, because the plan of action involved 3 steps. And these 3 steps, these 3 things that I learned from Richard Branson, is what I'm going to share with you right now. The first thing we came up with is I have to build a new dream team around me with digital knowledge, because people had left TV. Where did they go? I needed this dream team. I needed experts. I needed advisors, mentors, tech gurus, celebrities and influencers, as well as digital advertising gurus. This I didn't have. And so that was the first step. I had to get rid of some of the old things I was doing. TV had gone like this. Where did the eyeballs go? That was the question that Richard Branson said. He said, Kevin, 50 million people left television. Where are they? Well, they're on Facebook, they're on Instagram, they're on YouTube. They're not watching TV. You need to, number 1 was get a new dream team of digital people. Number 2 is embrace the digital disruption now in this knowledge economy, because there's been disruption. In the United States, there's huge disruption. I assume it's starting here too, because when you're on fire, like that as seen on TV logo, you need to rewire. And I want to show you a slide that will kind of explain it all in one step. It took radio 38 years to get to 50 million listeners. It took TV 13 years to get to 50 million viewers. The internet got there in 4 years. The iPod got there in 3 years. Facebook got to 50 million users in 2 years. But the Pokemon Go app got 50 million downloads in 15 days. Now, Ed Sheeran, the singer, he got 375 million downloads in 1 week. This is an unbelievable feat.
Your love was handmade for somebody like me. Come on now, follow my lead.
So this is the knowledge economy was coming. People had to understand what was changing, because there was much more knowledge happening on the internet than was happening on my television, because the old TV way was much different. Now, I want to explain. I had previously built a nice business, was going down until I decided I had to change, and that's when I huddled with Richard Branson. But not everybody else was doing the right thing. In fact, Time Magazine, Time Inc., was having serious declines year after year over the last 6 years, because they were not embracing this digital knowledge environment. And they actually just sold recently. Now, I do an event every year with a gentleman named Steve Forbes from Forbes magazine. And I asked Steve, I said, Steve, time is going like this. Can I ask you, how is your business going? And Steve said, Kevin, we're going the exact opposite way because we have embraced digital, we have embraced influencers, and we have 1,500 freelance contributors who give us articles every week on one condition. They give us the article, we publish it, and then they send it out to their followers. And that took them from 1 million readers to over 50 million readers a month. Unbelievable. And they were getting 300 to 400 stories every single day, and this was turning their viewership around to where in 98 years, they had their best year ever in this digital knowledge economy. And the highest readership because 70% of their sales were now coming from digital. Not the old way, not just printing the old magazine. They now were online getting much more knowledge was passing out because of the 1,500 freelance contributors. So this is step number 2. Step 1, I had to get a dream team of digital people. Step 2, I had to embrace digital. And step 3, Richard Branson said to me, Kevin, you have helped build many brands. You've worked with Tony Little, the fitness guy, George Foreman, the Kardashians, all these people that you keep helping build their business and build their brands. Tony Little, the fitness guy. But you never built your own brand. And this is what entrepreneurs need to do. So this is step number 3, is creating a brand for yourself by becoming a key person of influence, building your brand in this knowledge economy. And this was the next step for me, and that was very, very important. By becoming a key person of influence, the most recognized person in your industry, then you get all the phone calls, all of the business comes to you. And this was the step that was very, very powerful for me. So this step involved starting to create content, creating books, writing books. I've now written about 6 or 7 books, and every time I put a book out, it helps establish more credibility. I also do a digital magazine called Sharkpreneur, and that comes out every quarter. And so this creation of content, I started taking the book and going to radio shows and being featured in interview talk shows. And then that would lead, and there's 2,000 radio stations in the United States, by the way. And so I got on 5 shows, then 25 radio shows, then 50 radio shows, 100, 150, and then everything started to catapult in a large fashion for TV, other newspapers, Chamber of Commerce, trade shows, fundraisers, live podcasts. I do a weekly podcast now, and I bring guests on that have a following, and when I interview them, they send it out to their following. And a recent podcast that I was on just recently, we had over 6 million listeners that listened to that podcast. 6 million. There's TV shows in the United States on prime time that don't deliver 6 million listeners or viewers. And this is because the world has changed. People have moved off of television, they've moved away from magazines, and they're now looking for knowledge on the internet. They're looking for information. They want to be an entrepreneur. They want lots of great stuff. They want to listen to podcasts, and they want to go on LinkedIn. They want to see digital magazines and all these kinds of things. So this creation of content is what many, many entrepreneur folks are now doing in the United States. It starts with books, and then it goes from books to podcasts, to articles, to collaborations, to speaking. I go to 30-plus trade shows a year in the United States, some overseas. The houseware shows and the hardware shows, the beauty shows in Milan, the fitness shows, Frankfurt, Germany, there's big houseware shows. All over the world, Hong Kong, we go to big kitchen shows, looking for products, taking pitches, and going around the world to find the best things that I can. Now, when I'm creating content, I go on a radio show. This next slide is a little complicated for those of you that don't know about building funnels, and many of you probably don't, I just want to show you this slide because there is a multiple step process of building a funnel. Because if I go on a radio show, I don't just go on the show. I send them to a funnel that has, that's the lead magnet is the radio show, and they trip, the tripwire is they trip, I offer them a free chapter in my book. If they go to my website, that's the tripwire. They trip in to the funnel, and then we have a core offer and email automation and retargeting. I'm sorry if this is a little confusing. Maybe take a picture of this slide, but this is way beyond anything I'd ever done before, because when we ran TV commercials, we've run the commercial, people either called or they didn't. We didn't know anything other than those that called. Here, when you set up a funnel, people come into it, they may not order anything, but you have their information because of this knowledge economy and how you get a chance to track back to them. And that's called retargeting. So it's a much more powerful way today, because even if people don't buy, we still have a way to market back to them with a funnel. And this is a very simple process, but it's important because I no longer run all over TV. I start on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn. And there's 2 billion plus active Facebook users. You can classify 1,800 different target points. And this is knowledge is power, is what I'm saying here. This is why I got excited to be here today to talk about the knowledge that I got by getting out of only the TV business and getting into the business of being able to connect through Facebook and Instagram and the internet. And we can go in with $5 ads on Facebook and target dentists, chiropractors, doctors, lawyers, whatever it might be, in precision marketing, as it says here on this slide. So a much different world. We build a funnel. We go to a doctor, we go to lawyers, we go to we can grab by age, relationship, gender, generation, business, industry, etc. It's called targeted, precision, knowledge-based marketing. We have the knowledge of who they are and what they might want to buy, and we target them with a funnel. And this has changed my life, it's changed my business, and it's also helped us create amazing micro brands. Now, when I talk about a micro brand, I'm not talking about Procter & Gamble, and I'm not talking about the big companies. I'm talking about little companies that start little projects on the internet, and these grow. It's unbelievable. I mean, Kylie Jenner did $800 million in beauty over the last 2 years. She's created a micro brand. She's worth $1 billion from this, right? And it's unbelievable how entrepreneurs in the U.S., there's a gentleman, I shave every day, and he started a razor club. And I don't know if you've heard of this, but he spent $4,000 on a video, and it was the Dollar Shave Club. And then he got 10,000 customers, and then he got 20, then 50,000, 100,000. He just sold his company as a micro brand to Unilever for $1 billion. Michael Dubin, the Dollar Shave Club. Has anyone heard of the Dollar Shave Club? Yep, okay. Very, very powerful. $1 billion. He's a young entrepreneur. He created a micro brand due to the extreme knowledge that he possessed of who was buying razors. Razors for $1. Why should they cost more, right? And this was an amazing turn of events for somebody like that. So I just want to say that I'm excited to be here in Dubai. I've been doing business in many countries for many years. And my old way of doing business, this is Rupert Murdoch, the founder of Fox. Every year, up until about 5 years ago, I gave him a minimum of $5 million to run my TV commercials. That's the old way. Forget about it. The old culture. It's a few channels that broadcast to millions. But I can't afford it because there's no more. The viewership has plummeted. And there's a new way of doing business today. And this is the knowledge economy way. It's called The New Culture, Millions of Channels Broadcasting to a Few in the Knowledge Economy. You can podcast to very small pockets of people. And this is what I do, and this is how I do it. And my business had gone up, and it went down, and it's back up again. We're doing hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars in the business of product sales on a global basis on internet, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Google, and Amazon, etc. And so this has been a very powerful way for me to learn how to market new products. I want to thank my mentor and my friend Richard Branson for helping supercharge me and mentor me. And that's what I do now. I help mentor entrepreneurs in this new world. And I'm going to close with my favorite saying that I kind of live my life by. I say, I wake up every morning. I say, whatever you vividly imagine, ardently desire, and sincerely believe, but you must enthusiastically act upon it, then it must inevitably come to pass. And that's Paul J. Myers, God bless, passed away a few years ago. But this is my mantra in life, is that if I imagine it, vividly imagine, ardently desire, sincerely believe, and enthusiastically act upon it, it must inevitably come to pass. Thank you for having me today. It's been a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much. Thank you. All right.